welcome back. We do again profoundly apologize. We have had to cut the presentation this morning due to technical difficulties. Our IT professionals have been able to solve the problem, and we're happy to be back with you. At this stage, we'll field your questions, and there's a question on the screen asking for an update on the 3 persons who are in police custody as it relates to the video that was circulated on social media. To answer this question, we have released these 3 persons pending further investigations. There are other issues and other dimensions that we are focusing on, and they having exhausted the 48 hours that the law allows us to do. We have released them, and at some point I will update you as to what will happen in the future. Sherian, yes, you're recognized. You can ask your question.
As it relates to the homicide, any update on that? That's my first question.
The few persons that we had in custody, they are still in custody, assisting with the investigation. The investigation is rigorously being pursued, and there's been no update from yesterday morning.
Okay, I want to go back a bit to just for you to just recap for us in terms of the 44, and you said 39 arrested and 5 to be taken to court. It begs the question, 39 arrested, why just 5 being taken to court via summons?
Sharon, in answering your question, I think it might be more prudent for us to go over the entire presentation because of the break we have had. I think I want to give the media an opportunity to capture all of what has been said, and so I think it might be prudent for us to redo the entire presentation. So I will start from the top again, but I will answer your question first, after which I will run the entire presentation again. In Carriacou, the 5 persons that are taken by summons, they were not arrested in Carriacou. They were informed that they will be charged and will be taken to court by summons. They were not arrested. But they are part of the 44 persons that are charged, but these 5 are taken to summons, will be taken to court by summons, while 39 were arrested. All right, so this is the crime stats from yesterday morning, 6 a.m. to this morning at 6 a.m. And just to run over the entire presentation, I did say that the increase was largely due to the employment of the drone technology, which now allows us wider capabilities to enforce the regulation. 2 days ago, I did inform the media that we are engaging or employing drone capabilities to assist us in our fight in this particular time. We have done so, and it was as a result of employing that technology, we've been able to increase the number of arrests that I am now reporting this morning. I indicated in the program last night that we may not be everywhere at every time, but we have the capability now of sitting in the office and having the eyes in the skies to see you where you think you can hide. And that has been largely responsible for us increasing the number of arrests. Let's talk a little bit about the shopping day. I did indicate that today, Friday, April the 3rd, 2020, is a limited shopping day. Only grocery stores, grocery shops, and supermarkets is allowed to open from 8 a.m. to 12 noon, in keeping with Regulation 51A of the Emergency Powers COVID-19 Regulation SRNO number 16 of 2020. I indicated then that from 1 to 5, supply chains will be allowed to operate to resupply or restock those shops and supermarkets that are allowed to open for the period 8 a.m. to 12 noon. However, the Royal Grenada Police Force advises that the major supermarkets, namely Foodland, Food Fair, Real Value IGA, and CK Supermarket will remain closed. The Marketing and National Importing Board, MNIB, will be opening the Young Street, Grandans, Sauters, and Carriacou branches this morning between the period 8 and 12. Please be reminded that the 1 person per household rule is still in effect, in keeping with Regulation 12. The restrictions on travel across parish boundaries are also in effect, in keeping with the same regulation. In fact, what this regulation speaks to is the fact that persons are allowed to shop within the parish and will not be allowed to cross parish lines to access services outside of the parish. So notwithstanding the fact that MNIB in St. George will be open, persons from St. David's and other parishes will not be allowed to come into St. George to be able to shop at MNIB. Suppliers of cooking gas and other wholesale distributors will be doing delivery in keeping with Regulation 5(1)(b) of the regulation. All other non-essential businesses should remain closed. Businesses are reminded that no alcohol should be sold and persons are not to consume alcohol in public places in keeping with Regulation 5(3). In order to maintain the social distancing protocol, management of shops and supermarkets are reminded to mark the 6 feet points on the outside and at the cashier area to guide customers and ensure customers and staff maintain physical distancing of not less than 6 feet. DECO Service Center, St. George, and R&R Service Station at Grand Bras, St. Andrews, are allowed to open to facilitate refueling of vehicles of essential workers, not the general public. And I reiterate, not the general public. Persons are reminded that curfew is still in effect, and as a result, persons must move purposefully to and from shopping. And I want to reiterate a few points here. Today is a limited shopping day. Persons are allowed to visit the supermarkets and shops for the purpose of shopping, and that should be the only reason why you should leave your home. Police officers across checkpoints in Grenada will be intercepting if there is not a sufficient reason or if your purpose for leaving home does not conform to the reason, you may be arrested. Pharmacies, doctors' offices, and medical facilities will be open in keeping with Regulation 5(c). The penalty for breaching these regulations is a fine of $1,000 or imprisonment for 12 months. We cannot overemphasize and over-reiterate the support we have had from the public. We therefore thank the public for the support over the last few days. All of you who have called in, phoned in, and in some way provided information that assisted law enforcement, we are profoundly grateful. We encourage you to continue to support the effort of keeping Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique safe. You can continue to inform us of activities in your areas by calling 440-3999, 440-3999, or 911, our emergency line. Those of you who are desirous of obtaining passes to be able to move during the curfew can send your application in to the following email addresses. 1, rgpfcovidops@rgpf.gd. I will repeat. rgpfcovidops@rgpf.gd. And the second email address, rgpfcovidops@gmail.com. And these two email addresses are for persons desirous of obtaining passes. And you can send your email address, you can send your request to these email addresses rather than attempting to drop off a hard copy of your application. I thank you. I apologize again for the breaking transmission earlier on, and we will take your questions now, if you have any. Mikey Hutchinson.
Okay, good morning again to the colleagues and to your officers present at the meeting. Are we using police officers to enforce the quarantine orders at the residential properties?
I don't know how to answer that question, Mikey, but I will attempt. Are you asking whether or not we have stationed police officers outside of quarantine station on a permanent basis?
No, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking if there is police officer surveillance at any time, whether it's permanent or temporary, at residents of persons who are in quarantine.
Yes, we do make sporadic check on locations where persons are quarantined to ensure that they abide and obey with the legislation.
All right.
And we do that in conjunction with medical personnel.
Okay. With regard to the persons who were arrested, I noticed you used the word arrested and charged interchangeably. Are all persons who have been arrested already charged?
all persons who have been arrested will be charged. And there are 5 persons who were not arrested but will be charged. So all 44 persons will be charged. The 39 that were arrested will be charged, and there are 5 persons who were not arrested but will be charged.
And those are all violations of the curfew?
They're all violation of the curfew, yes.
Okay.
And you recognize a significant increase over the last 3 days, and we attribute that increase to, as I said, the use of our drone technology.
All right. Do you have an update for us re the recent homicide?
The persons who we have had in custody remain in custody. Our investigation is continuing, and I'll continue to update you as we move forward with this investigation.
No one yet has been charged?
No one has been charged at this point.
And what about the other incident with the video? Anybody has been charged yet?
All 3 persons have been released. We are continuing our investigations. There are quite a few dimensions to this particular investigation. We are in communication with the Office of the Director of Prosecution, and we will await directive on this. Again, we'll update you as to where this investigation goes as we proceed. Rena Pierre?
Yes, Superintendent Cohen, I just would like you to just go back again and tell me the parishes that the persons were arrested. I kind of lost that in the first briefing.
We had 26 from St. George, 26 from St. George, 10 from the Eastern Division, which includes St. David's and St. Andrews, and 3 from the Western Division, which include Guelph, Surtees, Victoria.
Also, Superintendent Cohen, I also want to ask you, there are reports of a COVID-19 patient leaving the hospital without being discharged on Monday. Is there any way that the police is involved in locating the person? Or are you aware of this?
Is your question, what's the end of your question? Is there any way, sorry.
So is the Royal Grenada Police Force involved in this? Are you aware of this? And is the Royal Grenada Police Force involved in finding the person or locating the person?
I have heard of the incident. This is more a medical issue than a law enforcement issue, but I do know that the law enforcement and the medical professionals are working in tandem to ensure that we bring this matter to some sort of resolution.
Based on the amount of persons violating the curfew, is the Royal Grenada Police Force foreseeing an extension for the curfew?
That recommendation would have to be made by the commissioner to the upper echelon of the powers that be. I guess this decision will be based on the obedience of the law, the results that we are now reporting, because we've seen an increase in violation. Those factors, I am sure, will inform the political directorate, and they will make the decision as to where we go from here.
My final question to you is, noticing yesterday that one member of the Royal Grenada Police Force was rushing with escorting an ambulance to the General Hospital yesterday evening late in full gear. I would just like to know, are you aware if it's a new case or if it's someone who already has the COVID-19 who needed medical help?
Rena, the truth is I am not aware of that at all. I am not denying that it happened. I am not confirming that it did not happen. Personally, I do not have that information, and so I cannot speak to it. Mikey Hutchinson?
Yes, I'd like you to expound on a statement that you made briefly. Are you saying that now that we have gone deeper into the curfew, that you are seeing more violations than previously?
We have been arresting more people, or we have arrested more people in the last 24 hours than we have done in the days previous.
Okay.
Mikey, and to add to your question, I am not saying that these violations perhaps were not out there, but because we are now using drones to assist us to see more and do more, might be the reason why we have more arrests now than before.
All right.
Because as you understand, physically we are limited. We can only be so many places and so many times. But now we have the use of the drone. It will go where we cannot go and allow us to see what we cannot see with the naked eyes, or being in our offices, or being on the road, or being in our patrol vehicles.
Okay, and just before I give my other colleague an opportunity to ask a question, as it relates to other crimes that we are used to, and let's zero in here on drugs and drug smugglers, what change have we been seeing as a result of this curfew?
We have seen a significant reduction in drug-related offenses. In fact, over the last few days, looking at the crime stats perhaps for the last week, there were only 2 related drug offenses that we have had. Crime on a whole has been reduced thanks to the curfew. Our housebreaking and stealing has decreased significantly. Our domestic crimes, we have not been having any reports of domestic crime. I am not saying that there are not domestic crimes. I am saying we have had very little report. In fact, there was 1 report of domestic crime in the last week. There may be more, but because of the fact that persons now are not allowed to leave their home, we are not hearing about those, but we're trusting that the statistics and the figures that we have currently is what it entails and what exists. Sherry and Noel?
Superintendent, you mentioned a bit about the restocking of shops, the small groceries from 1 o'clock. Were the shopkeepers made aware of this?
Yes, the shopkeepers and the suppliers are aware that supply trucks will be resupplying them between 1 and 5. They're aware of that. And I just want to add something to what I have said before. I have given 2 email addresses for persons desirous of obtaining passes. We are cognizant of the fact that not everyone have or uses the technology of emails. So persons wishing to apply for a pass who do not have the technology, they can make the application directly to the police station in their area. So if you do not have emails and you desirous of obtaining a pass, you can make that request physically to the police station in your area. Any other questions?
Yes. My next question to you, though, you said if you don't have access to the emails, you can make the
application
physically.
Yes.
Some people may not be living in close proximity with the police station. The procedures to get to the police station.
Then a phone call to the
point A to point B.
A phone call to the police station will suffice. I am sure that the pertinent information will be taken from you, and the police will satisfy themselves that you are legitimate and genuine. If they need to reach out to you, they will reach out to you to ensure that that application is in and can be processed.
Okay.
Rena Pierre?
Good morning, Superintendent. This is Blossom Alexis Welsh. I'm just hijacking Rena's account to ask my question.
Sure.
One of the concerns I've heard relates to the PPE, the personal protective equipment for members of the RGPF, as it relates to the way they travel around the country and their lack of proper masks and gloves and not adhering really to the social distancing when they're crammed into the vehicles. What alternative measures have been looked at to ensure that the officers themselves in carrying out their duties adhere to the regulations?
Well, we have been drilling into our officers the need to wear the protective gears. In fact, protective gears were distributed to all police stations, gloves, masks, and some of the entire suit, which is going to be used only when it's necessary. So we do have some protective gears, and we have been drilling into our officers the need to protect themselves on the front line. And this is something that is ongoing. We have seen it ourselves. We have had a number of calls from concerned citizens who say that police officers are not protecting themselves and are opening themselves up. And so we have been getting to our officers the need to protect themselves and wear these masks. And we are seeing an increase in police officers who are now wearing and using these PPEs.
You have also spoken of a number of people coming forward requesting permission to go about daily activities. Outside of farmers, are you able to tell me which has been the largest group of people or the largest sector seeking permission from the RGPF to carry out their duties?
In addition to farmers, we have had a number of applications from security guards. They have to move about. Security continues. The security of the country is paramount. And so security guards form the largest number outside of farmers that have been applying for permission. I do have a question to ask about the accessibility to ATMs. Today is a shopping day. And I made the point clear yesterday morning that to shop, you need money. And so today being a limited shopping day, persons are allowed to shop. So it is okay for persons to visit the ATM to be able to get the cash to be able to shop. So the ATM, I am sure, would have cash. I cannot speak authoritatively on that because it's a banking issue. But what I can say is that persons are allowed to use the ATM to withdraw or do any transaction that they do wish to do today.
My final question, so as it relates to members of the homeless community, homeless people, what has the RGPF been doing, or have they been assisting in ensuring that these homeless people are fed, taken care of, taken off the streets and so on?
I know this is a discussion that is happening above my pay grade. I do not have the details as to what exactly have been employed, but I know consideration continue to be given to them. Probably at some point I might be able to update you, but I do not have the details as to what exactly is in place as we speak as it relates to homeless people. But what I can tell you though, in particular to St. George, in particular, there is a facility on St. John Street that usually feed the homeless. I have been involved in discussion with them. They continue to do that. So homeless people in St. George's are continue to be looked after. I cannot speak authoritatively for the outer parishes, but I can speak with some authority for St. George to say that they have been fed and they have been taken care of in St. George. Any other questions? Okay, if there are no other questions, we thank you. We ask you to be safe and careful today. We are concerned about the gathering that we are seeing. There are long lines in most of the supermarkets that are open this morning. There are long lines. But what we have been observing is that people are not adhering to the 6 feet social distancing space. Now, this is critical. If we are to avoid the spread of this virus in Grenada, we urge you. It is necessary to get your food. It is necessary to have your supplies, but you must adhere to the protocol. It is what has been keeping us safe thus far, and we cannot overemphasize the need to keep that distance. We have also had a few reports of people gathering for whatever reason. Now, law enforcement is going to be out in full force today, as we have been for the last couple of days. We ask that you abide by the regulation. We ask that you obey the rules and the laws, and we ask that you remain safe as we continue as a nation to avoid the spread of COVID-19 in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning. God bless you.